Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to get into your love for painting and like this connection between poetry and painting. But first, can you introduce yourself and your artistic practice?
So my name's Ashley. I'm a painter based in Canada. And my work centers around my relationship to nature as well as I'm more process based. So a lot of it is how I work with the paint and my senses and working in an intuitive style to create these kind of speculative visions of envisioning what the landscape will look like either before human existence or either like post-apocalyptic, so after we like leave this place, like what is left. And I just find that nature is this ancient survivor that has kind of moved through like ancient catastrophes and has this ability to survive and continue.
Considering that you create or portray like these worlds post or pre-human existence, is it ironic that like you gravitate people toward you by sharing these paintings?
I think like we all are connected to nature because this is like the land that we're on, and in those ways I find that people are drawn to the work
Yeah.
because nature has that ability to kind of pull you in and make you feel like you're a part of something greater than yourself,
Hmm.
and like that is so kind of profound for me. And that's what connects us all because it doesn't matter, like small, like how big or small you are. Like in nature, there is no hierarchy. Like every living being is interconnected and part of this whole system. And in that way, I feel that that pulls people into the work
Hmm.
because it makes you feel like you're going outside of yourself to experience
Yeah.
this other world.
Yeah.
In some way, you know that there's this past that existed before you, and then there's future that is going to go on, and in those ways that connects us all.
Hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And like, I love nature. And recently I did an episode on like my separate podcast about, it's titled What Lives Beneath the Veil.
Mm.
And for me, that was like a trip into myself beyond like what I look like in the world and like being a black man and like how sometimes that can become like this image, you
Yeah.
know, and like people respond to your existence based off of your heritage and your gender, um, thinking sometimes that they're doing you a service because, you know, they know things about the world, but also if like too much of that can become very like pigeonhole-y. And
Yes.
so nature and like having nature walks and visiting different parks, that's one of my ways of like stepping outside of that box that we can easily be placed into because of these things and like our appearances.
Yeah.
Obviously, your art comes from like a personal place. I wonder, like, has it been challenging for you at all, especially as like a more introverted artist, to connect with curators and other artists doing group work, etc.?
Yeah, that's definitely I think a challenge for when I'm so used to kind of working in solitary conditions, and then you
Mhm.
have to bring the work out of the studio and like into the world and then connect it to other dialogues can be challenging. But then it's also, I think, it shapes the meaning of the work and like how I after I make this thing, how I understand it then. And for me, it's kind of like how you were talking about, like starting from yourself and then moving outward. So,
Yeah.
because I like to think that like artists are the vehicle for their work, and it is personal, but then you want to connect it to the universal and not just make it so much about yourself. Because at the end of the day, it's like you created something external from yourself. And so, like, connecting to curators and getting the work out there has been through it is challenging, but I it also pushes me to attend artist talks, other artists who are working in a similar dialogue or maybe thinking about similar things. And maybe I don't have a real conversation with them because some artists are like either dead or um or they have an exhibit and I'll never really meet them, but I get to see their work. And um in that ways it still makes me feel like I'm connecting to
Yeah.
something more,
Yeah.
and it makes the work feel like it's part of the system,
Hmm.
and that's more beautiful to me than, maybe having, like, the tangible results all the time.
I agree with you on that. And I love it's almost like the way you're describing these like relationships or like the parasocial or like being able to connect with something that someone left behind. It reminds me of like how I feel when reading from some of my favorite authors. Like some of them are gone. I'll never meet them. Some of them are here, but I still might never meet them. And so it's just so nice to also it's like you understand yourself better. And a lot of these feelings that you walk around with or these ideas that make you feel so like separate, you find that like you're actually not separate and like there are people before you who are like you. And speaking of that, you and I got to see each other here in New York, and we made our rounds through this open studio situation that was going on here in Brooklyn, and we got to see like a lot of older artists who seem to have flourished in their creative work and have all this stuff, like a plethora of work, some not even shown, just like shelved. So much stuff just out for us to experience. And some of them just seem like they were just so happy in their own little worlds and happy to share that with us. How did that make you feel? And like, what did that leave you with?
That was a really beautiful experience. Just kind of walking through and not knowing what to expect and doing those studio visits was really nice because it is very like intimate when you're just like walking into somebody's world. They're really like in their element.
Yeah.
Um, and that level of vulnerability and confidence to just share this very personal kind of experience that you've built over the years of who you are
Hmm.
is just very beautiful, especially like as emerging artists. I think it's inspirational, and that not everything is perfect because that's just the reality of like human nature. That not everything is going to be polished. The work is can be a little bit raw,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of questioning that happens. That's completely natural.
I'm like very interested in this like idea of letting ourselves be rough drafts many times. That's something that I struggle with, something that I'm really working on. I think that I'm one of those people who like at heart I'm just like it's not ready, don't look yet. As an artist, we're always going to be seen in process, going into dance spaces and like literally sometimes you'll be in a room with like 20 other people and a choreographer or a teacher will be like, "Okay, so I need you guys to create 16 counts right now on your own." And like you're in that room with 20 other dancers and you have to make something and you can't hide. Like you're seen in process. And that is something that is super uncomfortable for me. And I'm trying to learn how to like not be so phased by all that and just let myself work and play in the moment. Because it's really not that serious. You know what I mean? I wanted to talk to you about murals because I know that you do a lot of work in that realm of the painting world. What's the difference for you between like doing murals alone and like working on city projects and giving like full autonomy versus like working on an assignment like that with other people?
So mural work was something that happened when I was really looking to scale up my practice, but I didn't have space. Murals is a great way to do that
Mhm.
and also explore like material in a different way and build community.
Yeah.
So I started more in a community base, so as an assistant where I was helping bigger artists like work, create these very like large scale murals that were spanning buildings and like fences and things like that. Really did help build like my confidence in like learning. Not everything has to be perfect because in a mural you can. Like if you have 5 days to do this much square feet, like you don't have time to worry about the small little detail. At the end of the day, when you step back, it's gonna all look as one cohesive piece. So no one's gonna see that maybe you missed this little speck of like fill in. But over the summer, I got to paint with my friends an underpass bridge on Scrivener Square in Rosedale. And that was just a lot of fun. When I'm doing my own murals, it's quite different. I'm a bit more like maybe serious about it. I get to experiment and I get to try new materials, try new colors. Like maybe I want this electric green or this like neon blue, how that impacts the design. And it's also nice because people come up to you from the community. You're changing the landscape of the neighborhood, and that's why murals are so powerful.
Yeah, I love what you say about like it being like so far beyond yourself, and it's gonna last for such a long time. You won't know how many people resonate with this thing. I lived in Philadelphia for 2 years recently, and I fell in love with that city because of the murals.
Mm.
And so I was so excited to talk to you about this in particular because I didn't know how impactful these things were until I got to live in a new city and experience, the uncertainty of being on your own and being so held by art. Like that was what really made me feel most comfortable. Like, and that wasn't even inside of my apartment. It was like just like going on my walks and seeing all these beautiful murals, and a lot of them were made for like BIPOC, LGBTQ plus life. And it was just so beautiful to see how prioritized we all are there in that city. And the resonance is so deep, and a lot of dance paintings and a lot of like just historical figures and music. And it really touched me. And I went to Atlanta also once, and I remember seeing this mural also like at an underpass area on a long walk that I was taking to meet up with a friend who is from Georgia. And I think it was something like something really like nurturing and kind. It was just like everything's gonna be okay, or just something really sweet, but like it really impacted me in that moment. And I felt like it was a send off for me in the following fall. What's your relationship to murals when you're working on it really closely, like up close
Mhm.
and you're in the thick of it, versus once you step away and you get to experience it from afar?
It's really like a little bit hallucinogenic and like I don't like I think some my work comes across that way because it's so vibrant, but I have synesthesia, so my
Mm,
relationship to sound and color gets really like heightened. It's also like a trying to achieve that flow state of where I'm not even thinking, I'm just in it. And I think when I paint, I look a little bit strange because I just get so I'm just focused on like the marks. I'll see something and then
yeah.
I'll jump to the next thing. And I just want to keep moving. And that's when I know I'm being successful at the painting, is
Mm,
when I'm not thinking anymore. It's just like this is taking me here, then move there, then um and then you kind of see maybe a creature like some type of plant or and the imagery is starting to arrive and you're getting closer to that thing. So it's this push and pull. But then sometimes you stop and then the painting pushes you away and I have to step
mm,
back and I'm like reminded I'm not like in there anymore. I'm just here and I'm trying to connect both spaces again.
mhm,
And grounding myself is so important in the beginning. And that allows me to get into the painting. I feel like that's what I'm kind of accepted in. But then sometimes the painting pushes you out if you overdo it too much.
mhm, mhm,
How do we kind of create this harmony? It's like kind of like music. You're orchestrating like or composing the rhythm and how things kind of come together in the end.
mhm. Yeah, there's a song that I think about when it comes to like getting to a place maybe where like you're trying to force your hand and then you realizing that you actually need to take a moment from the art. It's the Janet Jackson song. I think it's called Let's Wait a While, where
Oh,
I
okay.
think the chorus is like, let's wait a while before it's too late. Our love will be great. Let's wait a while. And before it goes, she says, before it goes too far. And like that, I've been thinking about that like this year when it comes to like creating stuff and maybe trying to force my hand because I think something needs to happen when it, at a certain
Mhm.
time. But like the creator, like trying to remind me, take a second. Like you're not the only person, like you're partnered. It's not just you doing this. And I love what you said about like getting inside the painting. Like it's like taking something down instead of like coming up with it in a way, like you being like the conduit.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that because I recently like did a trip and it was just a break. I wasn't even doing art. I went to go see art. I went to Paris and London and I experienced the gardens and um I got to see a lot of art. It wasn't like a long trip, but when I came back, I went to an opening for an art event
Mhm.
and the artist was talking about like Amor Fati. And that really struck me because it's talking about how life will present you with all these struggles and challenges. Um, but at the end of the day, uh, like this is your fate, so honor your fate. And it resonated with me because the day before I had went on a hike with my friend, and there were these two paths, and my friend was like, "Which one do you want to go?" I was like, "Oh, let's go this path."
Yeah.
But we took the other path after, and it still ended up in the same place.
Wow.
And so one was shorter, one was longer, but you still end up in the same place. And
Yeah.
to me, that was a reminder that you can maybe take the easier route, you could take a longer route. Whatever route you take in life, it is your destiny and it's your fate, and just trust
Mhm.
that. And you're going to end up where you need to be. And that helps me a lot when I feel like I'm blocked or like I don't know where I'm going next.
Even when you take a detour and you think you might be straying away, like you might be led exactly where you know you're supposed to be. And even when you came to New York and we got to see these shows, I was in this really weird in between space in my life, and I just felt very like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And even the day we met up that time to go to the open studios, I just felt very random, and I just didn't know where I stood with myself. And just like eventually, I just learned to slow down and enjoy everything that I was seeing. Um, and leaving that space that we were in, I walked away from all of these people, all of these artists, like with this sense of replenishment and like being able to relax and knowing that like I'm in this for the long haul. Not everything has
Mhm.
to happen so fast.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that because it's like I think after I finished my master's, it put a lot of pressure on me to figure things out really quickly, and then I had to remind myself that I was just in a structure that was very actually unnatural, right? Like,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. And it takes time to figure things out. So I did a lot of wandering, like going to New York to see shows, and
Mhm.
then meeting you. It was just such a beautiful day, and we like watched the sunset after,
Yeah.
and we slowed down, and we just had conversations about what it's like to be creative, and
Mhm.
that was kind of the reminders I needed.
Just being near somebody who also really loves to create and like has a a real relationship with art like outside of the
Yeah.
capitalistic machine is so vital, and like you really can't even function well without it. What do you feel your inner world from your art infuses into this world, and maybe vice versa?
Like sometimes I really struggle with it, especially like lately. I've been really like having a hard time making work and like drawing those parts of myself out that I used to be able to do very like comfortably.
Yeah.
My inner world is very hopeful, very optimistic, very intuitive, tapping into those places of unknowability and trying to channel those out. Like, where is this going to lead? And how do I find maybe connections between things that don't even have an apparent connection? Like, the inner world in me is always hopeful, but the outer world in me is not always like that. I can be like logistical minded or like logical and try to be too rational with things. And that's why I like this art side of me because it brings out the best parts of me that maybe the external person um kind of fights with, and I kind of need that bit of balance between the two.
I feel like um when I get too like outward world invested, I feel like an enigma to myself. Like I start to feel like this like a cartoon character version of myself that I don't fully resonate with. Um and you know that song that's like I got a pocket full of sunshine.
Natasha Bedingfield, I love that song.
I feel like that's also like the way that I would describe myself, like apart from the world that we live in. That's just, I don't know. That's just like that's who I am deep down. And like I love
Mhm.
interactive games. I love to run around and play with friends. Like if it weren't weird, I would be that adult who's like still playing freeze tag and like jumping around on the jungle gyms and stuff like that. If it weren't weird to do that.
It's not weird though. Well, because like I guess like art can be seen as this weird thing, but it is like that very playful thing we all have in ourselves
Mhm.
of that inner child who just wants to who doesn't know what they're getting themselves into, and they have to like play and experiment to get there.
Yeah. Do you have any art or like paintings that are just for you?
I would like to say that everything I make is for me, which
Yeah.
is maybe a bit selfish, and that's why I struggle with the maybe sustainability part. It's like I think that's what I've been struggling with lately is like, okay, making work that is supposedly more commercial, like, or is it sellable? If I want to do this full time, like, should I be changing how I'm making work? And when the inner me just wants to make big work and I want it to be loud and I want to use lots of color, I want to use lots of material, and I don't want to be restricted, even though maybe that's not the most sustainable way to make work, but that's the type of work that I make because if it's not authentic to who I am, then I feel like I can't make the work or I'm not giving it any justice.
Like this idea that like it's super selfish to make art for yourself.
Hmm.
I don't know. I kind of want to challenge that because I understand why we all say that or why people think that because it's like, art has become this political thing and, we all want to make sure we're on the right side of the history books. Like I totally get that and I agree. But at the same time, it's like, isn't art from a very I don't know, maybe selfish place. Not necessarily selfish, but like that part of you that is it's from yourself, that is trying to speak for you in ways that you can't speak. And so it's like to muffle that to try to make something for other people that could also be selfish because it's like going against what is trying to speak through you could be self-will. You know what I mean? And like maybe sometimes when you do something from the most selfish place, like just speaking so naturally, like we might be surprised to see that like people resonate with that thing the most. And it's more universal than we thought because it was so personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I struggle with that too, but because you think you're being selfish because it's like maybe instead of doing what seems more productive or
Hmm.
if you were making it for this project, then that's more like it puts more how do you say it? Sorry, I think it's maybe that work has more weight than if it was just you making. But then I started to remember that we're artists, right? Like this is our studio practice.
Yeah.
It's not the practice part is about making
Hmm.
and not about the perfectionism of things and not about the results. It's the practice of the making that's more important. And um and I think the beauty of art is you never know where it's gonna lead you.
Hmm.
Because I made a lot of work that I never thought would be shown. I just thought it was gonna like live in my studio, then maybe I die or something, and then it gets shown. But thank God that's like not how it is happening right now.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
God.
But I always get that fear. I'm like, I'm making this, and I don't have a show right now, and it's a bit slower. Like, is that okay? I don't really. But then I have to remind myself of where I started, where I didn't have resources. I was just doing this for myself. And um like I was so passionate about it. I wasn't even thinking about the this art path or
Yeah.
like yeah, it was just like I was just making things. So why can't I go back to that place of just making without the expectation of this has to turn into something?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like also when you make something for yourself, like unknowingly, there are so many people in the world who feel the way you feel or can relate to you. And so it's like ultimately you'll find that it's also for other people too, you know?
Yeah.
And like what you're describing is something that I feel as like this fear of the uncertainty. For example, I don't know if you see it this way sometimes, but it's like, okay, so I'm going to be working in this gallery. I think this painting would resonate better with this space for X, Y, and Z reasons. You know what I mean? Versus like, if you're just making it without any of that stuff in mind and just going with the feeling, it's much more of a risk. And it's like it comes with that uncertainty, which can be really like discomforting.
I think there's this feeling inside of me that like I'm always fighting, which is like, oh, I don't know what I'm really doing. You actually do know what you're doing if you look at the
Yeah.
evidence of like your life.
I wanted to say to you that like your presence as an artist is very large. And like even before we met in person and like we met through making space and I got to see like your Instagram and your art, like it's a large presence. And then like
Really?
you're very large. And then to meet you in person and like hear how soft spoken, like we're both very soft spoken individuals, I feel.
Hmm.
And like we are very internal people and like we think a lot more than we speak.
Hmm.
And
We're more listeners than talkers.
yeah, for sure. And I think because both of us are quite quiet, we can hear each other a little bit, you
Mhm.
know, like when we're out in spaces and we're like, what do you think about like just very soft spoken? But we're both that way, so it's so funny. But like via social media and seeing your art, like your presence is so large. And I think that also goes back to like the self that creates the part of you that is like driving your hand, being the voice and you being like the vessel. Because it's like not all of our power is in our vocal cords. You know what I mean? Like I didn't grow up as like a super vocal kid. Like I was
Same.
always I
Silent.
was,
I was always
yeah.
silent.
Like I was always I have a really loud family, but I was always like the more quiet person. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, I do have my moments. I can be loud, I can be fun, but it's always driven from safety and like being surrounded by people that I feel completely comfortable with. And so when given the chance to write a poem or maybe to dance something on stage or like to paint something, it just feels so fearless for me. And like it's like that's why a lot of us are artists, I feel like. You know, not every artist is soft-spoken, but it's like this other way to use your voice. Like the voice for me, I've come to learn my voice as like not necessarily always the sound, but also like the thing that drives through me, you know? And yeah, like your voice is very bold and very loud from what I see experiencing your art.
That's really funny because I'm like the opposite. I think I need to like have a level of like I need to feel the energy and
Mhm.
have a level of like familiarity to be able to to kind of authenticate or like
Yeah.
myself.
Something about being able to just say, like, I get overwhelmed, I have social anxiety. Like, that is powerful too. You know, like, I think that we associate people who are more like just able to handle all that, and just super expressive in environments as like a really strong person. And that could be true. But like, you know, there is strength too in like knowing who you are in certain spaces and like it's okay to like be in the forefront and be in the spotlight and share your art and do all these things and still literally like be growing as a person at the same time. You know, like it's really admirable to see you do that and like knowing that like speaking is something that's difficult for you, but you're still choosing to go out there and do all these things. That's really inspiring for me because that's something that I'm still working on. Yeah.
Oh, I feel like you're so beautifully spoken, especially reading your writing. It has a large presence too. I
Mhm.
find like really moved by your words, especially when you read them. And then when I met you and you're also this like soft person, it was just very comforting. I felt
Mhm.
like it's easy to share with you and like have these conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't take our connection for granted.
Yeah, same. And I really appreciate that a lot. It's funny to see like that interpretation of each other being very similar. Do you remember like what your creative autonomy felt like as a child?
Yeah, I was always very like quiet. Like I didn't have the best experience in school because I was like bullied a lot and stuff. So then like I would just kind of
Where
go
are they
home.
now? Where are they now?
I don't know why were they so mean.
And
But then I just would go home and I would draw. Like I would just listen to music and draw. And then I just kept drawing every day. And I would make these things and I'd post them on Facebook. And
Mhm.
people would like them, even the bullies. So
And you know, that's the funny thing. The haters, they love you so much, and they're always the first people to engage with your social media. Isn't that funny?
and then it just became like it started, oh, like this is so natural to me and I feel so good about it. And like even for like English, I would read when we would have an assignment and we would read a book, I would go and like I would rip up the book and I made like a sculpture for it and I brought it to class. And the teacher was like, oh my god, you're not supposed to like rip up the school book. I'm like, no, I bought another one and I made it into a sculpture. Like, oh, that's so cool, can I keep this? And then people started, like, asking me to do stuff, like,
Hmm. Yeah.
um and then I just became known as, like, the silent art kid like and I still never really spoke to people because I just like to do my own thing and, like, be in my little world. Maybe that is escapism, but, like, just making something and then just going home was, like, my comfort.
It could be escapism, but also this Earth stuff is very ghetto. Like you It's a lot, and people be bringing their own debris over to you, so I completely understand why you were so like reserved. And I remember like my best friend, my second grade BF, my elementary school BFF was very similar, and I was too, but she was like really immersed in her art, so I would always see her drawing with her head down in her book, her like drawing Sonic characters and like creating storylines and stuff like that. And she's a really great artist today. So like it's just great to hear about you like being so young and already nourishing like your creative relationship while in like an institution, while in school, and like being expected to focus on some other thing. Um Earlier you said something that I wanted to piggyback to, but I almost forgot about it. You said like coming out of school and then like having to like relearn your own relationship to your art and the world and like how you're gonna do, you know, what you want to do. You said something about like it being an unnatural circumstances. Were you referring to like academia and like institutions or?
Yes, like, I didn't I didn't really understand until I came out, like, how 'cause you're kind of thrown into the space that's the most intense 18 months that of your life, really, and I was proud of myself for making, like, I think of some of the best work that I made,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I felt, like, afterwards, like, it's like you're cut the cord on
Hmm.
something, you know,
Yeah.
all the work, where does it go? Like, I have to, like, figure out all these things, like, how do I sustain myself? What's the next thing? Um h how can I can't make work on the scale anymore 'cause I don't have a studio space that big.
Mhm.
Um, like, all these questions started to feel so overwhelming, and I had to, like, take a break, so that's why I, like, went to New York, and, um, I wanted to immerse myself in a new space and see what it's like, and I just wanted to be around, like, creative people, and I that's what I love about New York. It's not the same as Toronto, there are creative people, but, I think to the level of depth that it's intertwined in the culture
Mhm.
where, like, people go to museums who are not artists, and there's this thing in the air of, like, art matters, and
Mhm.
that's really important to me. That really helped shape my mind of, like, you're not alone
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your thinking. There's
Yeah.
other people out there who are doing things that, you know, you're also struggling with and you're thinking about. So really take this time and, like, you don't need to figure it out overnight, and I'm still figuring it out, and that's okay.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oof. I needed that reminder. You don't need to figure it out overnight. Oh my God, the restless nights. And it's funny, like school, especially art school, it's like, hi, how are you? Yeah, yeah. Radio silence. And
Mhm.
it's so weird, like to grapple with going back to your life and like especially when you're used to being around certain people all the time because you're in that same space, whether you connect with them or not, and then they're just like no longer a part of your life anymore. Like it's all of that stuff is very interesting to grapple with after. And it's like things that you don't even think about. Like you don't even think that those things would like be like something going on in your psyche, etc. You know? Um
Yeah, and, like, I think my mental health became more important to me,
yeah.
at the end of my MFA than before, and I didn't understand, like, what was even happening to me, but it's because of that shift of, like, the system that you realize, "Oh, no, you need to, like, slow down. You need to actually take care of yourself," like,
Yeah.
it's you shouldn't be, like, losing sleep and, stressing over these things you don't even have control of, like, what do you actually have control of?
I mentioned a little bit earlier that we met through a BIPOC peer mentorship called Making Space. And you did a workshop a while ago and before we did our exhibition together with Making Space.
I really just love that we got to meet up, and because of it, we have this, like, beautiful connection as well. Um, but the workshop was an intro and pastel style, so I work and how I work with oil paint or even acrylic is by like layering the body of the paint so it becomes more thick and heavy and very textural and pastel.
I want to show you the painting that I did from your workshop. I have it here. I was heavily inspired by one of my favorite authors. His name is Andre Ackerman, and he's the author of Call Me by Your Name. And he's written like a bunch of other books. But in his book, Homo Aurelis, I hope I'm saying that right. It's a book of essays. And on the cover, this man is like rowing a boat. He's talking about how time is so like blended and folded into each other. And
Mhm.
he's combing like through his identity, his experiences, and just how like even as he grows as a human and evolves, um, he's still connected to all parts of himself through memory and like through all the things in his life. And he even talks about how like going back to certain places he's been in, he feels old feelings and he feels connected to that time again. It's very nostalgic, but also like very it kind of helps you step out also of what I talked about earlier, like the container of like who you are based off of your race, religion, background, etc. And yeah, it's just very it's really just like a blend of color and tracings. And yeah, to me, I was trying to express like time being woven into each other,
Mhm.
times and just like experiences all being one. And I think for me it could represent like an inner experience. Um And like I just imagine like folding a large sheet of paper multiple times and like that being time and life experience. I kind of like this, how this is like folded.
Yeah.
Um, but in this, it's like a time warp of experiences that shape my identity and like all of it just being like constantly moving inside. Like not
Mhm.
you do heal, yes, but you also do have memory and sentiment. And it's not a bad thing. It can be really powerful because like you can express it through your art, you know?
Yeah, it's like how painting is basically time folding in on itself because
Mhm.
like you're there with the material. You don't know how we were working like very intuitively and you were trying different marks. So I
Yeah,
really loved how it kind of embodied that mood.
yeah. Thank you. I had a lot of fun. Do you find an intersection between poetry or writing and your paintings in any way?
Yeah, especially near the end of my MFA, um I was removing the image moving myself more from I was thinking of different ways of image making
Yeah.
that I felt were less controlled. So thinking about mark making. What if I like use like a gesture like frottage where I'm tracing the floor of the studio, and then how can that suggest imagery that then becomes this like painting?
Yeah.
Or and then with poetry, I find it's very similar because I'll read something that I interpret in a very specific way than someone else who's reading it. Everyone's level of clarity is kind of obstructed or like
Hmm.
or based off your own life experiences and how you read that poem at that certain moment in your life. Um, and I would often like read a poem and then go into the painting and see how that would change how I'm feeling. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room to read poetry. You could
Yeah.
be anyone,
Yeah.
and you could resonate in a way that that really just shapes how you think about things. It challenges you, and that's why I like poetry.
The reason why I gravitate toward poetry is because like I remember when I started to like commit to my writing a few years ago, I wasn't the best speller. I'm still not. Like my vocabulary is not that expansive. But I knew that I had these feelings, you know, and I wanted to express them in some way. And I spent so long like not writing by hand but by computer. And so I was like relying on my computer to spell for me a lot. And so when I started writing by hand, it was so fucking frustrating because I realized that I really forgot how to spell so many basic words. And it was very frustrating, but like I had to keep writing to like be able to move through that. And yeah, like it helped me create this home, I would say, for myself where like I can be seen and like really fully express myself in my writing, and nobody will ever have to see it unless I share it, you know, which is amazing. But like poetry doesn't have to be some like super intellectual thing. Like it's feeling based, you know? And I recently read this book. I forgot the name of the I'm gonna look up the author real quick because I don't want to just let's see.
Also, please send me the other book you mentioned for that. I
Oh
really like
yeah.
when you're talking about time. That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
I will admit this book is a lot. Like he's such a profound person. He's just trying to get into every crevice. So he's just talking about so much stuff at once. And it's just like I remember I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and so a friend was here and she was reading the book to me. I was like laying out, and she was like, "Daryl, what are you reading? What is he talking about?" I read this book called 10 Bridges I've Burnt by Brontes Purnell, and his poetry is literally broken sentences just formatted as poetry. And he's just speaking however he wants. And he uses his own slang. And it's so good. It's so comforting to just like hear somebody as if they're speaking to you, but just like formatting it as poetry. As a fellow non-confrontational creator, how does creating art maybe compensate for times in life where you felt like you didn't necessarily speak up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think because I was always really quiet. It took a long time for me to like speak up in a room or like say what I actually wanted to say. With my art, it was nice that I could make these things and then I put them out there and then I saw people going up to them. And then I realized like my voice does matter. I do have something to say. And like maybe I don't need to say it out loud like
Mhm.
with words. Of course having those conversations is important, but um I think like allowing something to speak for yourself and like putting something out there in the world gave me the confidence to then um like be more outgoing.
I fully resonate with that. And I feel like the since lockdown happened in 2020, I think coming out of that and moving forward, my one of my biggest like journeys or parts of my journey has been using my voice. And sometimes I do retreat, you know. And I saw this you know those little like instrumental things you can play on YouTube of like people playing the piano for like 6 hours. I saw one of those piano videos and I played it and the caption says, "Even the sun hides sometimes." And
Mm.
so it was a cute little reminder that like, you know, Daryl, even though right now you're retreating a little bit, that doesn't mean that you're disappearing completely. Like we go through cycles and it's okay.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I fully resonate with that. And I think sometimes going back to what you said about speaking up in the moment, sometimes things do need to be said later when more processed and maybe through art.
Mhm.
It's probably the best thing because not only is it like gonna resonate with the people, but you're also getting paid for it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of healthy. It's very healthy actually.
Yeah.
Uh, thank you for answering that so candidly. Like I know there's a lot of people who um probably feel like because they are learning how to lead with confidence, that they might not be ready to share their art, but it might actually be the opposite. Like you start sharing your art and then it makes you more confident. And that's what's happening for me.
Same. Yeah.
It's like
And
following the leader, like your art being your leader, kind of. Did you always think you'd be able to create a path for yourself using your creativity?
Um, if I were to look back at my younger self, no. Like I even when I went to school, I studied criminology and art, and I would just tell everyone like even though I was in two programs in the art, I was like, I'm not gonna be an artist though. I'm just like making things. Like,
Yeah.
and then I was fighting with myself though, and in those times, and I think that's what like university does to you is like you're kind of like fighting against yourself to like do this thing, and then because you think it's the right thing to do,
Hmm.
or at least that's how I felt. And then when I left it, I was like, I can't ignore this part of myself because it makes me feel like truly whole inside.
Hmm.
And I think that's when I knew I just need to like really fully embrace it
Yeah.
because then you're left with all these feelings of disappointment and not honoring who you are.
Hmm.
Um, and if I'm lying to myself, then that's like the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of that to get to the place where it's like now I'm making, but I'm speaking up for myself and like showing up for yourself because no one can do that except you,
Yeah.
right?
Is there ever a time like you're working on something and like the midway point uh maybe sends you some unwanted or unexpected change and like maybe your art confronts you and like you have to learn how to surrender to what it's trying to do?
Yeah, like I get into these like weird spaces when I'm painting, so I'll either paint for like for two maybe 2 3 hours, or I'll just paint the entire day, and
Yeah.
then I'll just like sit and like sleep in the studio, which is like not a healthy way to be. But it's because like
Exactly.
I can feel like the painting telling me something, and I'm like stuck. I'll just get stuck, and I don't know like what to do.
Hmm.
And you really have to like sit with the work for a while and feel that discomfort, or like take a break and like go for a walk, but then it eventually comes to you. But it's like always this discomfort part that happens when um the painting's trying to like tell me something more and I don't know like how to receive it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that walk, going for a walk. I was looking back at my notebook recently. It's something that I was writing for a project. And like literally at the bottom of the page, I stopped and I put star, go for a walk. Because it was just getting very much like I was still trying to listen out for what I was being told to write in that moment. Um, like what was coming up, but like it just got to a point where it just felt a little bit crunchy, a little bit stale. And so I was like, I need to get up out of this cafe and I need to walk, and replenish my palate, refill my well. And it really helps a lot. It's weird how like it's not surprising. It's I think that also goes back to like the whole university thing and like being taught that you have to like train and ingrain, but like sometimes literally just the natural order of life can give you what you need.
Yeah, and also it's like there's this quote that I read. It was like when your mind is stuck, move your body, and when your body is stuck, move your mind.
Hmm.
And that really helped me because it's like you just have to get outside of yourself for a little bit to be able to like receive things, right?
As a working artist, um, as like a functioning creator with like constant motion, what are some ways that you, as an individual, like to care for yourself?
I think like what I realized that what's so important to me now is like even just it's just having a support system. So like friends and family, both creative and non-creative people, like don't always just be in the art world. Like
Yeah.
get out of it. And it's so nice to like talk to people who are not artists because
Mhm.
it gives you a whole different perspective on life sometimes. And then go back to that of being understood and like seeing people who are in that world too, who are a little bit more ahead of the game than you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that always like it inspires me to keep going and realize that like I'm only this part into my journey of like of this life, right? And and then also just being spontaneous. I like to do that. I try to do it once a week now where I just go to either like go for a hike because the weather is nicer and in Canada the weather is just like it's like we only get this much summer, so I'm really trying to like prioritize the nature walks and
Yeah.
feel that nourishment of like not looking on my phone and just wander for a few hours.
Who's an artist or creative hero who's influenced your creativity? One who is still here and then one who is no longer with us.
One that is still here was like my painting professor, Sky Gladbush. And he probably doesn't know like the impact that he had on me at the
Yeah.
time, but like he was always like because I was so quiet, he'd always be like, your work is really good. And he was the first person in my life to kind of tell me that.
Mhm.
So that had a big impact on me because it started to make me believe it.
Yeah.
Um, and then just being in that cohort in school where like I felt like my work was being received well,
Mhm.
gave me the confidence to like keep going.
Yeah.
And then one who's no longer here, I think like Frida Kahlo, like especially I went to Mexico City and I got to see her house and it was just such a beautiful experience. And then seeing the way she made, even though with all her injuries, it was just so inspiring. And she was so authentically herself.
Hmm.
And that's just something that like reminds me it's okay to be in your own world
Yeah.
and like to bring that out and to share that.
Yeah. I would love to share mine with you as well.
Yeah.
An artist who's here that has maybe been a creative hero or like served me creatively or influenced me. I would say I always mention like authors and stuff, but I do want to mention somebody who I met in my life. When I was in high school, I took a film class.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't go to like an art school at all, but luckily we had a film class. But her name is Miss Solanke. I don't remember her first name. But she was a British woman and she taught at my Harlem high school. And I remember we had this project, like this Great Gatsby themed project, because we had just watched the film. And I had did this whole project, and I wrote like a box filled with letters in between Gatsby and Daisy. Um, and it was just so fun. Like her class for me, I love film and I love writing, and I always wanted to be in the film industry. And just like the way that she cared, like she cared so much that it fueled my passion. Someone who is no longer with us that really inspires me or influenced my creativity. Miles Davis, and I'm not like I don't really play instruments like that. I'm learning piano, but the reason why I'd say Miles Davis, I do love jazz, but it's mainly because he believed in this whole thing about like there being no mistakes, no errors. And I believe his whole album, Kind of Blue, was improvised, and they just kept going until they just stopped. There's a quote by him that I read. It said, "Don't fear mistakes, there are none."
Hmm. I love that.
And I guess this goes back to what you said earlier about the path with your friend, and like you guys found yourself in the same place at the end. I think that's it.
Oh, I really love that as an ending because,
Yeah.
like, sometimes you don't know where you're going, but then you'll end up in the right place and you have to have, like, a lot of faith in it.
Before we go, though, I do want to ask you if you would be willing to do a short exercise with me.
Yeah.
We talked about this like intersection or relationship between poetry and visual art. I would love to set like a 5 minute timer. Both of us can like write a short poem or prose or whatever,
Mhm.
maybe inspired by the paintings behind us. I'll set a timer for 5 minutes and we'll just come back and share.
Okay.
So I actually used this as inspiration. I wrote, "Alive. Sometimes I break, I bask, I dance, I sing, I feel. I remember this is all a stage, this life, a blend of paint. It's sometimes messy, yet it all belongs to me. I fall out of clutter, into it, away, into peace. That's when I find myself in the pace of shimmering nature and its indulgently bright current. I could be anywhere, tomorrow, yesterday, now. I'm here, you see me. I am here, and I am full. Alive, I am alive. My current's my own. I call this place home."
Wow. Oh my gosh. I want that poem.
It brought me peace.
I just wrote that the impossible becomes possible in the dreaming.
Hmm.
And it's just a reminder, like, that it's okay to dream. And that's um, when you don't know what's going to happen next, will then fall through.
Yeah. Hmm. I needed that reminder. If you can share your handles, like your social media, where people can look at your art, your website, that would be great.
Yeah, I keep my Instagram up to date, so if you want to follow me on Ashley Beerdat,
Mhm.
that's my handle, and then my website is easy as well. It's just ashleybeerdat.com.
Amazing. Well, I feel very full and informed, and I really appreciate you and your time. And this was lovely. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I really needed this. Like I'm leaving with such good energy. Like you really inspired me. And just and that poem, I feel alive. Like I feel alive again.
Thank you. And vice versa. I feel very inspired and just reminded, moving forward. I kind of want to ride the waves of the inspiration. So,
Mhm.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.